and then our speaker today is Julia, and I'm gonna let her come up and introduce herself.
Guys, how's it going?
Good, awesome. I'm gonna put these things up here. These are our Stella Maurice brochures, and then I have my card. Alrighty, so I am Julia. I am the naturalist at Stella Maurice Environmental Research. In other words, that's a really fancy term for I love environmental education and I get to do the fun part. So in other words, I get to hang out with you guys, I get to hang out with the kiddos and learn a lot about the environment and the world around us. So I'm sure as you know, today is about sea turtles. And I am here instead of Ashley. Ashley had an extenuating circumstance, and that's why she couldn't be here today. But I'm going to be talking about sea turtles. In terms of the hatchling orientation index, she's really the brains behind that. So I'll do my best to answer those questions. But disclaimer, no guarantees. But I do smile very well, so this is entertaining. So we have that. All right, so we're learning about sea turtles today. But first, Stella Maurice Environmental Research. It's a lot of fun, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on camera. It really is a lot of fun. So essentially what we do is we are focused on the environment. We're not just focused on sea turtles. We're focused on coastal environments. We teach biology and chemistry labs to homeschool students. We also go to a local homeschool organization called Bailiwicks, and we go and we teach classes there as well. So for instance, we're going to be teaching about biology and zoology coming up. So we really do cover it all. We also have citizen science projects where you can collect data and help out with our research as well. That's something people like to really do. We have explorations, which is our free family hikes, our free science classes for the kids, where we go on the beach and we learn about something fun. So for instance, I think upcoming, we're learning about manatees. And then the month after, we're learning about sharks. So a lot of cool stuff. We're also doing summer camps as well, which include fishing labs, paddleboarding, kayaking. I'm pretty excited to be a camp counselor, not gonna lie, because that sounds great. But yeah, so we do summer camps. We also do dissection labs as well. We do clam and oyster hatchery tours, sea turtle experiences and research. Essentially, one long sentence for that. We really do it all. So if you're ever interested in checking out what we do, you can grab my card. I can always chat with you afterwards, but we do a lot of cool, fun stuff. So what are sea turtles? So sea turtles are marine reptiles that live in the ocean. And they're different from the reptiles that live here. So you know how we have tortoises, the gopher tortoise, how they can put their head in the shell when they get scared? Sea turtles are different in that, well, one, they swim in the water. Two, they have flippers. And three, they can't put their head into their shell. So there's a huge way they differ from land reptiles in that their head is just out in the open and it doesn't shy away. Okay? So they're pretty unique because they're one of the few species where part of their life stage occurs on land. So they live in the water full time. Ironically, they breathe air, but they do live in the water full time. And really only the nesting females return to the beach. Okay, so the nesting females and the hatchling life stage is what goes back on land. So they're really unique in that they do, but they don't. In terms of their adult life, they go back on the beach instead of living just in the water. Okay, so that's what makes them really unique. There are 7 species worldwide, but we have 3 here in Brevard County. They're the same as the ones we have in Indian River County. We have the loggerhead, which is the most common. We also have the greens, which are kind of, I like to say, the most famous. And then leatherback, I'm biased, but they're my favorite. So they're the coolest. Now by combination. All right, so the loggerhead sea turtle. So before we get into how can we help them and the dangers they're facing, we should learn more about them just in general. So the loggerhead sea turtle, I like to say, oh, that's cool. Sorry, I have a laser. Okay, back to it. The loggerhead sea turtle is the T-Rex of the ocean, and I like to say that because it has a massive head given the size of its body. And I know it looks normal here, but once I go to the greens have an even bigger body than the loggerheads, but an even smaller head. Okay, so the loggerheads, I like to call them the T-Rex of the ocean. They have a reddish-brown shell. They're very pretty, and they look like a log floating in the water. They have a big head. That's loggerhead. Okay. They can weigh up to 375 pounds, and something interesting to note is out of these 3 species, they are actually the smallest. So turtles are about the size, if not, they're definitely bigger than me, so I'm 5 foot nothing. But, you know, turtles, they tend to be as big as people or maybe a little bit bigger. They also have a powerful beak to break through shells. So this beak right here that they have, that actually is a bite force of about 129 pounds. So that's why when we do, because I have done sea turtle rescues as well, that's why they teach, you know, if we're going to salvage a turtle that has unfortunately passed, we do this test where we tap their eyelid right here to make sure they're gone, so we can keep all of these. Because we definitely don't want to put their fingers near something that has a bite force of 129 pounds. Okay. All right, but what's really cool about them as well with their beak is that it's really strong and powerful. So they like to eat the potato chips in the ocean. Who likes potato chips? Yeah, don't be ashamed. I'm right there with you. The Doritos came out with what was it? A pickle ranch flavor. It was really good. Now I'm hungry again. I should have said that. But they eat the potato chips of the ocean. In other words, they like the crunchy stuff. So they're gonna eat your hard-shelled creatures. So your lobsters, your clams, your oysters. But they like their jellies and sponges. Jellies are like the chocolate chip cookies. Okay, so they like their goodies too. Loggerhead meat. They're really cool in that regard. All right, so we have a green sea turtle. So their head is much smaller in comparison to the rest of their bodies. They also have this really, we call it the starburst pattern. They also share that with, I believe, the hawksbill as well. Don't put me in that. But the greens, they have the starburst pattern. Okay? And so they can actually weigh up to 485 pounds. So we're starting to go up in terms of sea turtle size. So we start with the smallest, and then we're going to end on the biggest. And green sea turtles, they're your Goldilocks. They're right in the middle. Okay? So they can weigh up to almost 500 pounds. And they are absolutely massive. And it's really funny when you get a really large green sea turtle. It's like this big and its head is only that big. It's just the funniest thing. They're so cute. And what's really cool about them is they are actually the vegetarians of the group. So they eat seagrasses, they eat algae, and what they have is they don't have teeth, but they have a serrated jaw to really grind up that food when they eat. So whereas a loggerhead has a really powerful beak to crush it, greens don't need that. They just need that serrated jaw to really grind it up, kind of like little blender. Okay. But their numbers have unfortunately depleted due to green sea turtle soup. Okay, which was banned in 1973. I looked it up on Google. Apparently it tasted good, but I don't condone it. Okay, which is why it was such a popular item, was due to its taste, also due to its cultural significance as well. But unfortunately, worldwide, the green sea turtle population really declined and got dangerously low, very dangerously low. And sea turtle soup was banned in 1973. Because of that and other efforts, such as the Archie Carr Refuge, the green sea turtle is now becoming a conservation success story. And that's something that, when it happens, it's really good. I got goosebumps just thinking about it. A conservation success story is a huge deal because there are so many times where, despite our efforts, it doesn't work out. But it looks like what we're doing so far, it's working out. We just have to keep it up. Okay? What's really cool about green sea turtles is that they actually nest in oscillating years. So if you have a friend who does sea turtle nest marking, nest inventories, make sure to get them in an edible arrangement this sea turtle season, because this is going to be supposedly a very high year for greens. So greens were low last year. They oscillate like this because they don't mate every year. Females nest about every 2 to 3 years, so they're going to oscillate, and they tend to group up. So they will actually have a high year this year, hopefully. Fingers crossed. And I say that now before I start marking nests. Yeah. So you have a friend who does sea turtle nest inventories or turtle walks, an edible arrangement would probably be great. All right, so, and here's part of that conservation success story. Here's our number of green sea turtle nests in Florida. This is how dangerously low it was. We're talking a few hundreds. Okay, and then around the 1980s, then sea turtle soup got banned around here, and due to our other efforts, we saw a huge skyrocket in around 2010 to 2019. That huge skyrocket is what has us considering it to be a conservation success story, okay, especially here in the Archie Carr Refuge. So here's an example of the oscillating years. So here's a long-term trend. But this one is more of a yearly trend, where you can see it takes a piece of that pattern and kind of zooms in a little bit. So here, you can see that they oscillate yearly. So yeah, so we're here in a low year. That was last year, and now we're going to be up here. And there's the running joke that if they don't come back this year, then the following year we're really going to need those edible arrangements. Okay, because that means that a lot of them are going to come back at the time. But hopefully this year is a high year. All right, I'm biased, and I made sure to put these bullet points because I could talk about leatherbacks all day, but I'm not going to torture you with it. So leatherback sea turtles are absolutely massive. When I teach people about leatherback sea turtles, I pretty much just say they're the size of a small Volkswagen Beetle. Is really what we equate it to. So for instance, here is this turtle. Here's this person. Absolutely massive, and the flippers aren't even out. The flippers are not even out. Right there. And I actually, last summer, I saw leatherback tracks and I laid across them and they took up my whole body. So that means its wingspan was literally this, was 5 feet. Okay, so they are absolutely massive. I love them. So cute. So they are black sea turtles with white ridges. They can weigh up to 1,500 pounds. And we actually have the smaller ones here on the Atlantic. We have the smaller 800-pound ones. But on the Pacific side, over near California, they have the 1,500 pounds. Okay, so super cool. They're amazing. They can also dive to depths over 4,000 feet. And the record was, I think, 4,400 feet. Someone put a tracker on a leatherback and it went down that far. Okay, so they can go over 4,000 feet in the ocean. And this is why they have really soft, leathery shells. This is what makes them different from the other sea turtles, and that they don't have a hard shell. And it's right. I saw someone do this. It's so it can account for the pressure of diving that deep. Because if you go to, I don't know about you guys, but if I'm going to 4,000 feet and I have a hard shell, it's gonna crack. Okay, but their soft shell, they're more like cute little flip. They can really handle that pressure. Also, I skipped this, but the record weight in 1988, there was a deceased male leatherback turtle that washed up in Wales, and it was 2,019 pounds. So that's the current record, at least current known record. Okay, so super cool. The really ironic part is that they really only eat jellyfish. They like jellyfish and soft things. They actually have fangs, so they don't have a powerful beak or a serrated jaw. They have fangs where they rip apart the jellyfish. Okay, so they're the cute little vampires of the ocean. All right, so here's some sea turtle anatomy. So right here we have the loggerhead. So here you can see that it has a really powerful beak. Okay, we also have the green here. It's a little bit tricky to see, but right here, these aren't teeth. That's just a serrated jaw edge where they really grind up that seagrass and algae. Then up here, we have these little fangs where they rip apart the jellyfish and other soft things. So they don't need a powerful beak to crush through it. They'd probably break their fangs with that. They also don't have a serrated jaw to grind things up since they only eat jellyfish-like creatures. They only need the fangs to kind of tear them apart. Okay, so it's really cool to see, although they're all sea turtles, they differ in a lot of different ways. They're pretty cool in that way. That's why if you were to ask, well, what's the average number of eggs in a sea turtle nest? We have to always ask, well, which turtle? Because they differ so much based on which species. We typically go with 100 eggs because the most common turtle is the loggerhead, and that's about their average. So if here's someone say it's 100 eggs, they're talking about the loggerhead. Super cool stuff. Alrighty, so all of the fun things happen in our backyard. Who's ever been to Archie Carr? Nice. Sweet. I highly recommend it if you haven't been there yet. It is essentially a collection of these properties. It is 20.5 miles all the way from Melbourne Beach to Ovasso near here. Okay, so it's across both Brevard and Indian River counties. It's the most important nesting site in the U.S. So most of loggerhead nesting on the East Coast occurs in Florida, which makes the Archie Carr Refuge especially important because it is the highest number of loggerheads in the Western Hemisphere. So I lived here my whole life, grew up in Sebastian. I had no idea we were the hub for sea turtles, especially loggerheads. For loggerheads, at least in the US and the Western Hemisphere. Okay, so it's a really huge deal. Okay, and Archie Carr Refuge was founded in 1989, and it was the only national wildlife refuge at the time, founded solely on sea turtle conservation. So normally we have refugees that protect just the whole environment. This one was for the main purpose of protecting those beaches to get those sea turtle numbers back up, which we are seeing so far with the green sea turtles. So it's a pretty huge deal. Alrighty, so 2024 nesting numbers in the Archie Carr. So before I get into that, this is what a sea turtle nest looks like. It looks like a potion bottle, and if I was teaching at an elementary school, I'd say it looks like one of those potions from Fortnite. I did that once. They went wild. It was kind of hard to rein it back in, but but this is what they look like. So they look like a traditional potion bottle or a teardrop. So what we do is we have all of these eggs right here. Then there's about 100 of them if you're looking at a loggerhead. Sometimes up to had 120, 150 for a green nest. But essentially, all of the brothers and sisters are going to try to get up this channel and come out this way and emerge. And when they come up all at once, it's really cool. It's called a boil because it literally looks like water boiling over a pot. Okay, so it's super cool. So that's how they come up this way. And so in total for the Archie Carr Refuge in 2024, we had about 15,000 sea turtle nests. And keep in mind that a lot of these species, like the leatherback, is critically endangered. That's one step away from extinction. Okay, and loggerheads and greens, they're still working on their conservation. So this number should actually be higher. So that's kind of crazy to think about, right? That 15,000 nests is actually, it should be higher, which is interesting to think about. And most of that was loggerheads at around 13,000 nests. Around 2,000 was greens, and then 254 is leatherbacks. Leatherbacks, they are always going to be the lowest number just because they are really struggling right now. We're not entirely sure why, but the leatherback sea turtle, it has a 40% hatch success rate. And we're not sure why. Whereas loggerheads are going to be in the mid 70s. Greens are a little bit lower, but leatherbacks in the 40s. We're not entirely sure why, but something we're definitely looking into. So the annual nest ranges, so we're going to have a high year. So that means our greens could theoretically be up to 15,000. Okay. I'm not sure if it's going to go that high, but see how the season goes. But loggerheads are always going to be your most common. All right, so the rest of the Archie Carr Refuge, this one's really the home hitter. Okay, the quick development of expensive land. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen beachside. I'm not going to have a home on beachside anytime soon. Okay, so the thing about that is that land is very expensive. Okay, and someone, even though they're the Archie Carr Refuge, they still have to purchase that land. Okay, and that relies on federal money. And federal money, and if anyone's federal listening, just plug your ears. But federal can kind of take a while. Okay, and so by the time you get the money, that land could already be sold and be developed. Okay, so that's one of the challenges. We also have light pollution as well, trash pollution, beach erosion. I actually took this picture in the Archie Carr Refuge, maybe about half a mile south of Juan Ponce de Leon landing. Okay, and all of this sand, it's gone. And it was there probably I was there the month before, and this was a month later. Okay, so a lot of beach erosion is gone. So overall, we need beaches to be clean, flat, and dark. Because this huge, massive pile of sand, this huge wall, the sea turtle's not going to be able to get it, or they're going to really struggle. Okay, and then after the hurricane, has anyone heard of the infamous foam? Yes, the infamous foam. So essentially, foam from houses that were destroyed by the tornadoes here from the hurricane threw a bunch of the foam into the water, and it was washing up on shores in giant slabs of foam. Okay, so this was actually in the Archie Carr Refuge. I took that the same day as well when I was volunteering with FWC at the time. And yep, and it was just giant pieces of foam just laying on the dunes. Okay, so you would have tiny pieces of styrofoam like this, but then you would have foam slabs that were as big as me. Okay, so a lot of foam going on there. Alrighty, so people and impact on sea turtles. But sea turtles are gonna encounter more specific threats than foam, right? So you have nest predation. And nest predation, it's a part of life, right? That's something I explained to the kiddos. The circle of life, it comes to the end at some point. It's sad. We all can't be Moana holding a leaf over the sea turtle and make sure every single one makes it. Okay, the circle of life is unfortunately a thing. And you're going to have your nest predation naturally, but if there's a bunch of trash left out and raccoons, which I like to call them trash pandas, if they're so cute, little trash pandas and bandits, they're gonna start coming right more in numbers, more trash pandas, more raccoons, and that's gonna lead to more nest predation. Same thing with coyotes and dogs that are not on a leash. Dogs that are unleashed on the beach, trust me, when I come home and I smell like a nest inventory, my dogs go insane. I mean, you could have Airbud, you could jump on a command, and Airbud will still want to sniff that sand and dig in it because it just smells very good to them. Okay, they're very curious. So another huge thing is light pollution. Light pollution is essentially when there is too much light in the air than there is naturally. So you know when what am I trying to say? There's a lot of light at night and it kind of gives this cute little glow. That's called sky glow. Okay? It's when the night sky looks lighter than it should be, and that light pollution is actually affecting sea turtles. So sea turtles, they rely on this right here. Okay, so they don't follow the moon directly. They follow the moon's light that reflects off the water. Then that light that reflects off the water goes to the turtle. So they're going to follow that reflection. But unfortunately, if they have this to compete with, which way do you think they're going to go? Yeah, we're going to go here. Okay, so that's something that's a little bit of a struggle as well as light pollution and trying to encourage homeowners on the beach to get tinting, to get curtains that block out a certain wavelength and close them at night, turn some lights off if you need to, or if you're able to, turn some lights off. So that's something we try to educate as well in the Archie Car Refuge. Okay, beach erosion, as you saw, digging. So dogs, people, and sandcastles. So trust me, I built a mean sandcastle back in my day. I'm very proud of it. I had the moat, put the water in and everything. Great. But what I didn't realize at the time is that when I'm digging and it's summer, which means it's sea turtle nesting season, I could hit a clutch and not realize it. Clutch is a group of eggs in a nest. So I'm at my cute little plastic pink shovel and I'm digging and I could hit a clutch and not realize it. So that's something I didn't realize when I was younger. But that's just something to keep in mind. If you're digging and hanging on the beach, especially in the Archie Car Refuge, where there are so many nests and so many more nests than what is marked. Okay. So also illegal distance to sea turtles. Unfortunately, I have seen this one too. I was leading a turtle walk in Vero, and has anyone ever been to Waldo's? To Waldo's? Yep. I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. Essentially, where we, by permit with the turtle walk, and I was permitted to do this, I could essentially lead a group to a nesting female, and they could see the nesting process. But the problem is that people on the Waldo's balcony thought it was an amazing idea to take their phone lights and go like this, and nesting females are scared by light. So hatchlings attracted to it, nesting females scared, also attracted to it as well, but they can be spooked very easily. Okay, we even on a turtle walk had a turtle who was nesting. They were getting ready to nest. It was so exciting. And the person in the hotel room in front of them opened up their curtains. It was like, oh, you know, with all the light. And then ended up scaring that turtle away. Okay, so light pollution is actually something people don't know a lot about, but it is pretty serious, especially in the Arctic Refuge. And don't harass a nesting turtle. Can't believe I have to say it. Please don't harass nesting turtles. They're our friends. They're fun. They're cute. They're adorable, especially leatherbacks. But I'm biased. Okay, but they're absolutely adorable. So make sure you give them the space they need. Okay, so Why do we need dark beaches? I'm sure you're wondering, why do I have an off-road ATV course going on here? Well, these are actually hatchling tracks. Super adorable. If you're thinking, wow, this is really cute on screen, even cuter in person, I promise. Okay, so these are hatchling tracks, but the problem is that they're really confused. So that could be an evidence of light pollution. Okay, if they look like a pot of spaghetti was thrown on the floor, then something's probably got to change. And here we have right here an adult green turtle actually went to someone's front steps. This was Sea Turtle Preservation Society. They responded to this one. The turtle actually went to their front steps because it was confused. And we even had a adult female loggerhead that made it all the way to A1 and A. Yeah, unfortunately that one didn't make it. But it serves a lesson, right? And that we should really try to do our best to limit our light pollution so they don't get confused. Moonlight is the strongest light. We want moonlight. It's great. But I understand if you have a property, you don't want it pitch black. That can be dangerous. Well, I totally understand. But sea turtles actually have a higher difficulty seeing red light. Okay, so is anyone a scuba diver in here? Yeah, nice. Well, you guys know that the farther you go down, you can't see red light anymore. So if I was wearing a bright red shirt and I was next to you scuba diving and we were 50 feet down, you would not be able to tell the color of my shirt. Okay, so it would make sense that sea turtles don't really need to see. They're adapted to not need the cones in their eyes and the rods to see that red light. Okay, so it's super cool with that. What that means is that with this, now not all red light is good light for turtles. It just makes it safer. Okay, you have to have a certain type of light bulb, and that's station, but because they have difficulty seeing this wavelength, there is a solution and a compromise. I love the word compromise. Compromise, compromise, compromise. It doesn't have to be us or the turtles. We can find a solution, okay, to coexist. That's really what matters. So, false crawl. What is a false crawl? A false crawl is when a turtle comes up on the beach, and it happens naturally, but it can be triggered more than it should happen. So in this case, I took this picture last season. I took it in June. So what we have here is we have loggerhead sea turtle tracks. We actually have, is it two separate ones? It's hard to tell in this picture because sometimes they run over each other's tracks. It's just mayhem out there. But essentially what happened is it was at least two tracks next to each other where they came up on the beach, hit the seawall, they got scared, and they actually left. So a false crawl is essentially when a turtle comes up with the intent to nest. So if they make it past a certain timeline, we consider that having intent to nest. And a false crawl is when something happens, we're not sure what, in this case we kind of know, but where it causes them to actually abandon the nesting process. So it can happen naturally. Like for instance, in the beginning when we had that really dry summer last year, the sand was actually too fine and it was hard for the turtles to dig. So if the sand was too fine, they actually false crawled. But in this case, they unfortunately, they're loggerheads and it's made of stone sometimes. They didn't like pointing their head on the seawall. Okay, and they got startled. Okay, so just something to think about, like lights. So for instance, if someone were to open this light, and a turtle was here trying to nest, if they opened up their curtains, they could actually scare the turtle into leaving. Okay, so super cool things. Let's see. Oh, and they have 1 week to try again, or their eggs, unfortunately, might be released into the ocean. Okay, so at least sea turtle moms, super determined. We love them. They're the go-getters of the ocean. And at least when they false crawl, they do have other chances, but we really don't want to push our luck. Okay, considering that we're trying to keep these species from going extinct. Okay. Alrighty, be a mindful beachgoer. I wish I could say I didn't have a lot of options when I Googled turtle stuck in a chair, but unfortunately I did. Okay, so part of being a mindful beachgoer is just making sure you pick up after yourself. Okay, that part's easy enough. But other things you can do as well, you can fill in holes that affect hatchlings and nesting females. So there's been times where I go out and it was a masterpiece, great, but it was a hole left in the beach. And me and my team, we helped fill it in. So if there was a nest that emerged and hatchlings that came out, they wouldn't get stuck. So if they fall in that pretty moat, They're not gonna be able to get it. Okay. We also recommend avoiding the beach at night. I know when I walk on the beach, it's awesome. It's amazing. I've been there. I understand. But the problem is that when you go on the beach at night, what do you typically have with you? You have a flashlight. And flashlights and other artificial lights can scare turtles or lead hatchlings. Okay? So that's why we offer guided tours. We're permitted and trained by FWC to make sure we have the most minimally disturbing presence possible. And we teach you guys how to do that as well. And so that's why when we go out together, it's one permitted. So one, what you're doing is legal because legality, I mean, it's a great thing. I wouldn't recommend legal things. Okay. So when you're with us, it's legal. Also, all parties are going to be safe. Okay. And that's really important too. All right. So I don't know if you can tell, but in this little plastic cup, you have a friend. Okay. So yes, they've umbrellas. Even if a hotel is needs the finger wagged at them for their lights, some of the hatchlings we have found that go up and right in the pool. And then someone's gonna get them out of the pool. Storm drains. Okay, hatchlings are tiny. They can really. I mean, we're talking about an 8-ounce cup, right? They can really fit anywhere. So it's really important to keep the beach clean, flat, and dark, and trash free. Okay, clean, flat, and dark. All right, but how can you make a difference? You're probably wondering. I hope you're not wondering, man, she's been talking a while because I'm kind of checking the watch. I've kind of talked a while, I'm sorry. But if you're wondering, how can I help? There you go. Okay, you can be a mindful beachgoer, keeping the beach clean, flat, and dark. So, for instance, when I'm not working on a nest and I walk by and I see this hole and I can safely fill it, it's not all the way to the other side of the world. It's a hole I can safely fill. I'm going to go ahead and do that so a hatchling doesn't get stuck. So a nesting turtle can conserve her energy and not have to go through the literal trenches to get to where she wants to go. You can also volunteer with local sea turtle organizations, especially when they're very busy in the summer and they need help with education, with summer camps and all that jazz. There are so many. It's not even just us. There are so many local sea turtle organizations in Brevard County. It's insane. Sea Turtle Preservation Society, Bear Island Sanctuary. There's the Sea Turtle Conservancy. I'm forgetting like half of them. Like there is a lot. Okay, and then there's us too. There is a lot. You could also, if you're able to, donate to local nonprofits, especially these sea turtle nonprofits as well. You can support turtle walks and turtle digs this summer. I highly recommend it. Stella, we do ours. I believe Sebastian Inlet does some. Friends of Archie Card does some. So you have your options. And then also spreading awareness and educating beachfront neighbors about light pollution. These two are extremely important. I mean, they're all important, but these two are extremely important. Spreading the word, because your neighbor is going to be hopefully more receptive to you telling them about light pollution than me cold calling them and sounding like a telemarketer. Okay? So they're going to be more receptive to it if it's from someone. Some sweet art trivia time. I know it. And these are Kess Ridley's. They're super cool too. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a game. So if you have a phone, you would go ahead and go to play.lookit.com. And I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. And it's a cool little trivia game like Kahoot. The prize is bragging rights. I know you're like, man, I really wanted some bragging rights today when I showed up for the seminar. So I'm going to pull that up real quick. You would just go to this URL. And then I'll bring up the game ID in a second.
And if you're online as well, you can play too. You can just go to play.looket, BLOOKET.com. And then, so that's the game ID right there. Yep, this number right here. That's the game ID. Alrighty. Early bird gets the worm. There we go. And it's people online as well. They're rolling in. Nice. We'll give it about another minute. Let everyone get on. All right, is everyone on that wanted to be on? I'll give you another minute. So how this is gonna work is once we start, it's gonna be trivia questions. There's 13, but we do them all together one at a time. There's a time limit, but it's a minute. So there's plenty of time for each question. What's gonna happen is the question and the choices are gonna come up on your phone, and on your phone, you select which answer. You get more points, of course, if you're correct, but also if you're faster than the person next to you. Okay, so that's how that works. Yes. All right, here we go. Which of these is not a local sea turtle species? Which of these is not a local sea turtle species? Alrighty, almost there. A few more people. All right, so our options are leatherback. We got green, olive ridley, and loggerhead. Awesome. Okay, you guys all got it right. I love that. That makes me feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. All right, I appreciate that. We got Sarah in the top. Okay, so it also depends on how quickly you click it. All right. So what programs do we offer at Stella Marie's? A few more. Look at that. Awesome. But here, I'll give you this, and that we do offer those walks and digs. Okay, so awesome. But we offer all of those. All right. Oh, Caleb took number one. Oh, wait. It changed. We got Sarah in the number one. All right. Sarah's killing it, whoever Sarah is. Which of these species is the biggest and the heaviest? Hint, this one's my favorite, so of course it got its own question. Alrighty. So the loggerhead, it's got a massive head, but it's actually the smallest body. So the leatherback is going to be the biggest one. Oh, there we go. Loggerheads like to eat the blank of the ocean. Think about my favorite snack I mentioned. Alrighty. So technically they don't eat cereal, bagel, or potato chips, but in the quotations, they like the potato chips in the ocean because they like the crunchy stuff. They like the clams, the oysters, lobsters, you name it, and they'll eat it. Alright. This sea turtle species is dangerously depleted due to sea turtle soup, which is now illegal. So our greens, it was green sea turtle soup. So they mainly ate the greens, and they were the target species. Ready? Oh, got a little competition there. All right, what should you do when you see a hole on the beach? Yes, fill it in if you're able to safely. Okay, you're helping out your fellow hatchling there. You guys are going lightning fast. That's awesome. Oh, Sarah, she went back for it. We got competition for first place here. Awesome. All right. An ideal beach should be clean, flat, and blank.
I think they're cheating.
Or they cheated. I didn't even finish reading the question. That just went that's crazy. That's awesome. All right. So you want the beach to be dark, clean, flat, and dark.
I'm sitting in the way now. I'm getting everything right.
All right, the Archie Park National Wildlife Refuge was founded for the main purpose of blank conservation. I did my best to help you out with the two spaces, with the spaces. Did my best. How it's
I was sure it was antelope.
Oh, you were antelopes. We gotta keep safe on the beach, right?
Oh, I was beach.
Oh, you guys are a point apart in the top three. All right, this umbrella anchor, I didn't really go over this. Is that harmful to use on the beach during nesting season? This one I didn't really go over, but it digs down, so I'll let you come up with your own opinion. Yes, because when you screw down, you can hit a clutch and not realize it. Okay. All right, a few more questions. How is the leatherback different from other species? Its difference allows it to dive safely down into deep. Awesome. It has a soft leathery shell because it has to encounter high pressure. Okay. Awesome. You guys are not messing around in this top three. Which species is the most common in the Arctic Car Refuge? So it is the loggerhead. Green is the second most common, and the leatherback's the third. But it would be the rarest. All right, the quick development of expensive land is a threat to the Archie Carr Refuge. River Falls. Oh, I was kind of giving it away with it. I got excited. Give me a hint. All right, it is true. Because waiting on federal people, waiting on federal money kind of takes a bit. And the land could be gone by then. So. Last question. How will you make a difference in sea turtle conservation this year? There is no wrong answer, essentially. No wrong answer. Be mindful beach going. This one's really important. That's how you make a daily difference. Educate, volunteer, donate. Cool. All right. Kayla, you did it, bud. Wherever you're at, is Kayla in here? Kayla could be online.
That they're good.
And there was a battle going on there for first place. That was awesome. You guys know your stuff. Well, good job. Sweet. And then I have a final slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm not done.
Sweet. Alrighty. I really appreciate you guys having me, especially since I was kind of a last minute swap out. I really do appreciate it. Ashley wished she could be here, but she's not able to today. But if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me. I have my cards on the table and our brochures, and my email is right here. Just my first name at StellaMauriceResearch.org. Also, if you're interested in volunteering, you could actually scan this QR code. This QR code is going to take you to our Point software, where a next question will come up and it'll say Stella Maurice. Join, and I don't know the other option because you should want to click join. Woo! Stuck that right in there. All right. So once you scan this QR code and you click join, it'll have you create an account, and from there you can sign up for volunteer opportunities for our organization. So it's pretty cool. So if you're on the shyer side and you kind of like just to book things online, that's where Point comes in, and it's really great. We also have Leslie. She's a ray of sunshine. She is my favorite. Her email is volunteer@StellaMauriceResearch.org. She's our volunteer coordinator, the nicest person on planet Earth. So if you want to talk to someone as well to kind of get that scheduled, Leslie is your gal. All right. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And we might have questions.
We've got about 7 minutes for questions. If you have a question card that you want me to come grab, raise your hand.
I won't look. I'll give you your privacy.
I have a question napkin.
Perfect. Anyone else napkins, cards?
Actually, curious, but where is it else?
You want me to bring the percent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Okay. Our first question is sand replenishment a threat to sea turtle nesting?
That is a fantastic question.
I would say yes, because you can't get up, an adult or can't get up and sand.
So
You know,
it's a very loaded question, but it's a good question. And it's one that's really important for this community to ask. I don't think I'm knowledgeable enough to speak on it, but what I will say is that at least in Indian River County, beach replenishment, when it comes to the sea turtle people and they sit down and have a conversation about it, that is something that's talked about on the table. Okay, so it is something that people are looking out for. I am not sure if they have plans to plan around sea turtle nesting season. It just kind of depends. But I will say in that beach renourishment moves so slowly. Government people, over years. But beach renourishment really happens so slowly that it's not going to happen all in one season. It can actually take think longer than a year to go from, at least from Sebastian Inlet down to Ensign Vero, and that's a very small area. So that is a fantastic question. I am not qualified to speak on it, but if you email me, I will absolutely find the answer to that question for you. Sorry, I know that's not the best answer, but that's the one I got. Woo! Sorry. And then did you have a second question too?
I've got it, don't worry. Where are the male sea turtles during the nesting process? Where do they go?
That I got you. I can answer that one. Sweet. So the male sea turtles, they're actually the only times they're going to really interact on the beach is when they're hatchling. So that first run of their life, it's the most important because it's the only time they're on the beach, really. If we see a male on the beach, we know something is really wrong because we should not see a male sea turtle on the beach. They will wash up on the beach if they are sick. Sometimes after mating, they can get stunned, where they just kind of freeze up and then they float up on shore. We had that happen one time as well, where they take a little bit to wake up. But in other words, they're gonna just spend out their time in the ocean at different breeding grounds, feeding grounds, but they don't come up on the beach unless something's wrong. Great question. And male sea turtles, you can tell if it's a male sea turtle by the length of their tail. So female sea turtles, you have the head, you have the shell, and at the bottom of the shell, you have the tail. The female tail should not go out past the bottom of the shell, but the male tails will go out past the bottom of the shell. So if you come across a stranded sea turtle and you see that it is a long tail, like you'll be able to tell a difference. It's a long tail that's going way out past the shell. Something is most likely wrong. And that's where you would call the FWC Wildlife Alert Hotline. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but you could Google it and you can find it that way. Great questions. Awesome questions.
Awesome. Any other questions? Okay,
I didn't write it down.
it's okay. Just speak up so that they can hear you on this little owl.
Okay, so I did write one down, so this one is like, you mentioned coyotes on the beach.
Mhm.
Where do they live and how many are there?
That's such a good question. I'm gonna plead the fifth on that one because I don't know anything really about coyotes besides that I sometimes compete for them and digging in a nest. But coyotes, they are here. I don't believe there is a lot of them, but one coyote can do a lot of damage. I know in the past there have been coyote removals, not that they, euthanize them or anything, but they would capture them and relocate them to another area with perhaps less sea turtle nests. So what I will say is that I'm not sure what their current populations are at right now, but if they're an issue, then they are captured and placed to another environment where they're going to have a little bit less damage. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and my other question that I didn't write down was, you mentioned the turtle feeding grounds. Where are they? How far out are they?
I love this question. This one's my favorite question, but I'm going to keep it short because I could talk for hours about it. So what happens is that depending on their life stage is where their feeding grounds are kind of determined. So when they're hatchlings, they go out in the open ocean. They're going to travel miles out, like 20 miles out, all the way to the Sargasso Sea, where they're going to float around in those sargassum mats. They look like golden seaweed. Is what the sargassum mats look like, but they're actually macroalgae. They're actually going to float around in those currents where everything collects. They're going to eat dead bugs, anything tiny that they can get their little mouths on. And they're going to do that for a few years. Those at that point, they are juveniles, and they're going to actually start coming back towards our coastal communities. So in our lagoon, for instance, we actually have a lot of juvenile greens. So we have them in the Indian River Lagoon, where as teenagers, they're growing up and eating the foods in that area. Then when they're adults, so they're around the breeding, mating age, for turtles, it's 25. They actually don't sexually mature until they're 25 years old. So yeah, there's a long turnaround time on that. So that's why every turtle really counts. But essentially, once they turn around that age, they're going to go back out to the open ocean where they're going to get the big girl and the big boy food. Essentially.
So how do they get from the lagoon out to the ocean? They don't go through the inlets.
They
do?
Yep. So really any way they can get in there, but I would imagine that it's the inlets that they go through. And that's why when I, living in Sebastian, when there's unfortunately deceased sea turtle or rescue turtle, a lot of times for me, because I live on the lagoon, it's a green sea turtle. because those juvenile green sea turtles tend to be the ones that are in our Indian River Lagoon. I have scout or salvaged loggerhead ones as well, but you're typically gonna see your teenage green. Try not to say mutant ninja turtles, but your green teenage turtles are gonna be in there. It's a great question.